Hi again then guys, and so I've been getting quite a number of requests for tune setups, both for speed and handling for the cars of the new update patch. And of course, as always, we are going to do those, both for drag racing and circuit racing, and this is the first of those to roll out for the Ford GT. This is a multi-purpose tune to some degree. It's primarily a long-distance drag build and top-speed build, very similar kind of thing anyway, but also you could use it for a high-speed circuit build by making a couple of changes, but you can probably guess what those changes are. Stuff like evening out the ride height, for instance, when we get to that. Little things like that just to make the difference for handling, but we'll approach it primarily for straight lines, and then you can make changes if you want to. Now, as far as power and weight, of course you want to fully upgrade that. You're running a lot less power now than on older games. This is more like Gran Turismo 4 era kind of power. Well, the livery matches that, but there you go. It's still a powerful car though. 840 horsepower, of course, is not lacking. It's just not as high as it was. 940 on GT6. Traction control, you definitely want turned off. However, as I've said before, and doubtless as I'll say again, I would recommend setting up your controller or your wheel so that you can turn traction control on or off while you're driving the car. That comes in very useful, not just for drag racing, but for pretty much any racing. Now, as far as the tyres, we've got Racing Super Softs. I know some people, especially for rear-wheel drive cars, like to have, for instance, hard on the front, soft on the back. That's down to you. As far as the suspension, we've got the front as high as possible, the back as low as possible. And the reason for that is because, again, it's more of a longer distance, high-end, mid-range and top-end drag build or speed build, so the low-end stuff isn't as important. Plus, traction control can help out with that anyway. As far as the frequency, we've got that on 2, anti-roll on 10. Of course, for cornering, you'll definitely want that lower because it's way too stiff. It's just for straight lines with that. As far as the compression on the dampers, we've got 62 on the front, 60 on the rear, just so that you can take up that drive and that launch a little bit better. 60 or 96 even for the rebound. Neutral camber for maximum tyre contact to the road, neutral toe as well. Downforce you can't adjust, of course. As far as the diff, I've just fitted the fully customised diff, and then I haven't actually changed anything because it handles quite well for what it's designed for, so you can change that again if you do want a bit of handling. Although the handling is pretty good, it's mostly the raised front end which compromises it a bit. And as far as the gearbox itself, I'd recommend, as you can see, an auto setting of 224, then individual gears of 2.5, 1675, 1265, 1030, 890, 790, and then a final drive of 3. Now, that allows you to, well, we'll get to it in a second, but it allows you to get really high speed, of course. Nowhere near as fast as on Gran Turismo 6, but then again, none of the cars are. So, that's it for the build. Now, all that remains is obviously to take it out on the track to see what it can do. Now, as far as this build goes, of course, you're not going to launch off the line as quickly as, say, most all-wheel drive cars, like a Nissan GTR, for instance, which is pretty much the benchmark of drag racing, at the moment at least, for street cars. But at the same time, the Ford GT has always been great for launch as far as rear-wheel drive cars go. It's actually quite a difficult one to beat when you set it up correctly. Now, with this tune, the times are all listed in the description, so you can check those against your own tune or against the other builds that I've done, or just look at them for the fun of it. But some of the highlights are that it can actually hit 60 in 2.2 seconds. For a rear-wheel drive car without NOS, that's very impressive. Now, what I would recommend, as I said about the traction control, is to allow the traction control to ride out until about 40 or 50 miles per hour. Then turn it off, and you will see a significant improvement off the line. Now, if anyone challenges you about using traction control or has an issue with that, inform them that modern race cars use traction control. So if they have a problem with that, they can take it up with the professionals, because they don't, so get over it. But most people probably won't know or care unless you tell them. So with that aside, it's extremely fast once you get going. So 0 to 60 is great, but it's above that it really gets good. This thing can get to 175 miles per hour in under 12 seconds. That's crazy fast for its power. And you've got to bear in mind how much less power it has, and you can even get it up around 245 on a long straight. So if you do decide to use it, I hope you have a lot of fun with it, and of course there are more drag tunes and tunes in general that you can check out here on the channel. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.